You cannot pick people with business interest and a few technocrats at the Ministry of Education and call it public participation.
Ukicheza na elimu ya watoto, basi unaweza kuwa umemaliza generations nyingi sana.
The God of the poor children and the God of the poor shall deliver this curriculum to Kenyans, irrespective of a few ill-considered people who are only thinking of themselves.
That policy that you launched, which stakeholders discussed it, is born out of which process? And if you're launching it in May, what policy was used to roll out in January?
And that's the story, sadly, of the new curriculum that is to replace the country's 844 education system, characterized by assertion on the one hand and resistance on the other. The competency-based curriculum, among other issues, focuses on 4 core issues, also known as the 4 C's: communication and collaboration, critical thinking and problem solving, creativity and imagination, and citizenship. Now, all subjects will be linked to these issues. While teaching, the focus will now move from exams only to feedback to include formative assessments. Teaching will also move from focus on lectures to experiential and practical learning, and from focus on memorizing to interaction. And of course, there's more to this new 2663 system that will entail 2 years in pre-primary school, 6 in primary, 3 in junior secondary, 3 in senior secondary, and 3 in university. Sounds all good, but not to all, at least not yet. And the face of the resistance, if you may, or if you could call it that way, the most notable one, NAT Secretary General and nominated Member of Parliament Wilson Sossion, leading a teachers' union with over 200,000 members. Thank you for making time for us tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
And in your resistance, the Cabinet Secretary of Education, Professor Magoha, has said, and I'll quote him, "If you have something better, why don't you tell us what it is, or shut up?" And he goes ahead to say, this conversation should move to the next stage where you help him identify the bottlenecks.
Yeah, thank you, Hussein. Number one, would like to make it very clear that the policy of Kenya National Union of Teachers believes in constant review of the curriculum, at least every 5 years. Number two, we believe in reforms that are professionally conducted, whether it's CBC or any other curriculum. But our contention at the moment is the process and how the curriculum is being conducted, is being done haphazardly, it's ad hoc, it's unsystematic. And
are you supporting the new curriculum?
We are confident. We are not supporting because of the manner in which it is being handled and now, the position we've taken to refuse the process is because of the admission of the government itself at some point that the curriculum was poorly planned and hastily introduced in schools. Those are the
because they retracted.
Academician.
But they retracted. They retracted and they launched it again.
Even if it is retracted, it's on record. And that admission was done in our very own presence, and nothing much has changed. And that is why we are coming out very clearly to tell Kenyans exactly what is happening, because the curriculum review process as a professional entity is within the domain and knowledge of teachers and experts.
Okay.
And
I'm
this is a matter
for the sake
that
of
we
Kenyans,
must share with Kenyans. And
for the sake of viewers, you're talking the admission you're talking about, of course, is Honorable Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, when she was then Education Cabinet Secretary. But of course she retracted, and I remember her, and I'll quote her when she said, "In light of these developments and assurances, the Ministry of Education wishes to announce that it will commence a methodical and carefully organized planned rollout of CBC effective January 1st, 2019 in pre-primary 1, 2 and grades 1, 2 and 3. That is what she said, that she had been assured of support by relevant government agencies and stakeholders. But be that as it may, we've seen the current CS saying it will proceed. Some of our crew went out yesterday, if you watched our news. Some schools have already started. Well, the school they went to, Olympic Primary School in Kibera, has already started the launch. Some are actually calling you irresponsible, because here the government is saying the process has begun. Some schools have begun doing it, and you're going ahead to tell teachers not to do it. How does that settle for the parents and the children?
Yeah, thank you. We are a democratic country, and we have a right of opinion constitutionally. And we are a legitimate union. And I represent the teachers who implement at the classroom. We can conceptualize a theory and a process, but it's a different thing to translate it into action in the classroom. Hussein, a curriculum is not a political statement. It is a technical process. And our concern is that the due process has not been followed, right? From number one, the evaluation of the 844 to check and to agree whether it has gaps. Number two, the needs assessment, which we believe it was poorly done by KICD.
KICD is saying this was not raised.
If you get it wrong, it was poorly done from our own research and from analysis. Whether it was raised or not, that is a process.
They actually say nobody specified where the weaknesses were.
You can skip. Number three, you must develop a policy framework before you develop the curriculum designs. And the policy framework means you go through, constitute a commission, and number two, engage the stakeholders, develop the policy, develop a session of paper, have parliament to debate, bring the country together, because this is a major thing that is going to affect the households. And this is how we have done over the years with the 6 commissions. How exceptional is this one that we must bypass, even a very technical stage? You can develop the policy designs. And look here, Professor Magoha is telling us that he has constituted a commission to guide him on the extent to which the primary school will cover in terms of grade and secondary schools. That means he cannot see through the designs from ECD to the university. That means every
they've
stage
started gradually.
has not been handled properly.
But they have started gradually.
No, it's not gradual. It's already at the rollout. We are supposed to be doing monitoring and evaluation, and you cannot engage in rollout after piloting.
All right. This is what the government says, Honorable Sossion. I mean, you're talking about public participation. First, you're talking about no evaluation. And they say it was done in 2009, Ticket, Koech report of 2000, Odhiambo Commission report in 2012. And in that Odhiambo Commission to align the education sector to the dictates of the new constitution. Then, NAT, KUPPET, Kenya Secondary School Heads Association, Kenya Primary School Heads Association, all stakeholders in the teaching fraternity were represented. Yet this task force recommended a curriculum change.
Let me clarify.
Let me just finish.
Yes.
That is in terms of public participation. Again, they talk about all the ministers that have been there talking about this same thing, including the late Mutula Kilonzo, Honorable Kaimenyi, Honorable Matiang'i, Honorable Amina Mohammed, and now CS Magoha. Again, the steering committee for curriculum reforms. You've been a member. That was formed by Kaimenyi. It's been sitting for some years now. The question is, why would you say then there is no public participation, yet all this was there before? All these processes have been there.
Let me take you back to the process. Even right from Dr. David Koech Commission, the ticket of 1999, which was released to the public, and it meant to cure even the pitfalls of the 844. It culminated in the session of paper number 1 of 2005 and review of the 844 in 2003. And I can say Professor Saitoti was very meticulous in handling the reforms in education and bringing in FSC and aligning the achievement of education. Then the rest, when we talk of Professor Ongeri, he's still in this country and we debate. He has a lot of reservations about, I can't speak for him, and Mutula Kilonzo. But then let me go to the process of Professor Douglas Odhiambo, because there have been a lot of lies about that report. Indeed, we participated. We were in the committee, but that does not mean as an organization we cannot raise our reservations and concerns, and we've done it. Let me take you...
You did it.
We did it.
So there has been... So you have been engaged. The fact is, you've been engaged all through. You have been engaged.
In that process.
Exactly, because you're saying you're not engaged.
Let me come back to that. I've not said we are not engaged. We've been there and we've raised our reservations. The Douglas Odhiambo Commission culminated in a national conference at KICC.
Yes.
And the stakeholders in that conference voted against the report at 55 against 25 votes. That's a fact for sure. And the conference rejected the reforms and recommended that we engage in a review of education. It would be more cost effective and absolutely relevant. That should have rested. And any resurrection to start again the process required another commission.
Okay.
Those are facts that
the government says otherwise.
And no, the
government says otherwise.
The government, yes, has every right to think otherwise. But we as citizens, we have a right to state facts as they are.
You know,
we voted.
They actually
we
say...
were given the forum by the government. We voted. 55 votes against 25.
Did you declare?
And therefore, yes, we declared. It was a vote.
Was there a declaration by NAT on the 3rd of January 2018 that you support the CBC?
Our declaration on 3rd of January. And I'm coming down to Fred Matiang'i, because in fact, Kaimenyi never engaged in all this process of reforms. He didn't. And it is Matiang'i who started all these. And look at even the piloting which was done in 2017. The piloting, a very critical phase, was conducted from the month of June to the month of October without a summative evaluation, without a report and a pronouncement of rollout was conducted. So fundamentally, right from Matiang'i's time, there have been so much shortcut and dictatorship
but you supported
in
it
the
then.
process.
You supported it in 2018 January.
In 2018,
you supported the CBC.
In 2018,
yes,
Dr. Matiang'i postponed the rollout and pronounced through a meeting that we were going to have a 1 year of piloting so that we could address and fix the gaps. And to us, that was quite acceptable.
But at
the end of 2018, there was no report about the piloting that was done.
As it is, then you supported it.
As recommended at that time,
yes,
I did support the change to postpone the rollout.
The other issue you're raising is, of course, training. And this is what KICD CEO Dr. Julius Chwan said about teachers training. And I quote him, he was yesterday here on Monday Report. He said, I'm a teacher that was not trained on previous syllabus. I was never trained on the 844. A teacher is trained on general and specific methodology of implementing a curriculum. That is why Kenya exports teachers to even other countries. You are taught various ways of teaching. We are just reorientating teachers to move from lecture and question to answer and interactive sessions. Because you put so much emphasis. You've been talking about training. I
sympathize with Dr. Juan because he's in a very difficult position. And it is wrong to lie to the country. We have exported teachers to various countries within Africa and outside Africa with a curriculum where our teachers are trained on a similar pedagogy. There are two types of pedagogy here. There is pedagogy for the outcome-based curriculum. And this is largely what our teachers are trained and what the majority of the teachers all over the world are trained to deliver. To deliver competency-based curriculum is a different pedagogy, Hussein. It's completely different. And countries that have done it, like Finland and Singapore, they have rolled out a very intensive and comprehensive and different training of teachers. And if you want to roll out competency-based curriculum, you cannot transform the teachers who are in the field who are trained on outcome-based curriculum to change all of a sudden to competency-based. If you look at the training in Finland, because what type of CBC do we want? Do we want a counterfeit CBC that is more inferior than 844? No, it's not what this country requires. What does it take to deliver CBC? And if you look at Finland, for example, you cannot teach in a Finnish classroom unless you have a master's. You've been taken through thorough training and you have been observed.
You think we should wait until...
And therefore, what Kenya is doing and what Dr. Juan is trying to deceive Kenyans is that teachers can teach any curriculum. That is wrong. This is not about curriculum even changing. It's about the teaching methods changing. And if we are to roll out CBC in this country, then we begin with the pre-service training.
I'll come to that.
Discussing now
I'll come to that as
teacher training,
as what you think is ideal.
Framework, so that once those teachers have been trained on that pedagogy of CBC, then they can begin gradually rolling out the CBC.
I'll come to that in terms of what you think is ideal before this is launched. One more thing. During the training of teachers on the new curriculum last month, Citizen TV conducted some spot checks, talked to some of the teachers who are a bit of the new style of content delivery. Do you think you speak for all the teachers or the ordinary teacher in classrooms? Because we actually saw some teachers going through this training that you had opposed, that you told them, of course, to stay away from.
No, the truth of the matter is that this process was policed, and the teachers who attended the trainings, they attended because either they were intimidated or signing allowances. But the fact is,
but the ones we talked to are very upbeat about it.
Training that went on at the centers, and this brings me to the original position of government where we were involved on the 15th, whether the CS retracted or not. But these are facts. One, that the curriculum was poorly planned and hastily introduced in schools. But the process did not carefully consider resource constraint and was not given the necessary strategic intervention at the inception stage.
You're quoting Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed.
Government statement. Yes. And that the role of the teacher, this is critical, the role of the teacher in the curriculum design is marginal, leading to lack of buy-in and comprehension of the structure by teachers. And more importantly, the procedures for developing a learning program are deemed complex, decreasing the quality of lesson plans and teacher intervention. And this brings me to what happened yesterday. You were at Olympics Primary School, and you saw a class of 105 learners, and the teacher is expected to teach and assess every learner at the end of the lesson. You saw the blanks in the matrix, that it's really, the teacher can't do anything. And this is a manifestation of exactly what happened during the trainings. Those were not trainings, and that is why we are concerned.
Fair enough.
And let me take you back. The laptop projects, it was rolled out in the same manner, and we raised our concerns, and we were told teachers were trained. They were taken to such meetings. And through our research studies, indications are that even the trainers who are training teachers are incompetent. They are reading through the manuals and struggling together with teachers. I don't think this is the preparation that just we require. And if you look at the meeting, the class situation that we had yesterday, 105 learners.
That's fine. And I'm going to ask you this question. Now that you're saying that. Sure.
And give that.
Fair enough, of course, but for the record, Honorable Sossion.
If we conceptualize CBC as one such curriculum that we want in this country. For the record,
the government statement you keep reading was, it's fair enough, it was a government statement, but just for the record, for viewers, that was by Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, and she retracted it. Be that as it may, you've talked about teachers training, you're talking about infrastructure. Of course, the question has been raised, it's not like now in the 844 system we have adequate infrastructure. We still don't have adequate infrastructure even now.
Of course, definitely,
but,
yes.
So the question is, when do you think we will have adequate infrastructure to ensure we have the new curriculum?
In this conversation, if we took the curriculum review step by step, we would address the specific gaps. Will be able to address the time, even in terms of teacher training? Do we use the teachers who are in service? No or yes? If no, how long will it take us to train the teachers from the pre-service so that we can roll out systematically? The report given to us by the same government and the ministry indicates that from the external evaluator, indicated that the teacher, the resource requirement in terms of finances is 365 billion to roll out from pre-primary 1 to grade 3. And look at it, even yesterday, a classroom of 105, there are only 4 textbooks.
That's
but we were told textbooks have been distributed.
When do you think we'll be ready? When do you think we'll be ready? Do you think we're going to have adequate infrastructure in this country? How long will that take so that we can actually go to launch a new curriculum?
Even tomorrow. Let me tell you, Hussein.
Is that possible, really?
If today,
it will take years, isn't it?
If today government tells us we are ready to put in resources as discussed, even in a phased out program, to avail resources. In fact, by now, if we are talking about textbooks in all the schools, class sizes being reduced to reasonable sizes, and
that is a lot, definitely. You agree that will require a lot of time and infrastructure.
Is the country ready? Are we moving to a curriculum that we
can manage? So when do you think we'll be ready? It doesn't matter whether it takes 20 years from now, 30 years, as long as we get what you want in terms of, not what you want, what you think is right, in terms of getting the right number of children in classrooms. For example, give me a number. How many per classroom would you think is right for this?
Let me tell you, where is the origin of this CBC and why is it being forced? And even any other curriculum. Why can't we do things systematically? What informed the rollout? Why are we in a hurry? The question is, why are we in a hurry? Because when you transit from one system to another, and you must do it professionally. That basically is an argument. It's not being done. And we are not saying the country should not do it. It should do it. But has it demonstrated that it can do it? Definitely not. The whole thing will collapse at the classroom. And right now I can tell you, Hussein, we cannot cheat the public. We have brought in something and cheated the public that is not working. In fact, this country has not even prepared parents. We have brought in a system that will bring in a lot of iniquity. Okay. We brought in a system that has a lot of foreign interest and business interest. And we can tell you it's going to work against the SDG4 agenda of equitable quality education.
In terms of business interests.
We are worried about children with disabilities, SNE, in SNE centers. There is no CBC at the moment from the latest study that we even had today. OVC children without parents, how will it work? And they run into close to 3 million learners, absentee parents, the marginal areas. In the marginal areas where there's no infrastructure, there are no teachers.
And MPs are complaining today,
equity.
MPs from the marginal areas in Northeastern are complaining about that too.
And they've spoken.
That this is the 844 system still has these problems.
The biggest disease here, the biggest disease that will face this country is the death of public schools vis-a-vis private school. The overall long-term intention is to kill the public education, because the public education will not cope up with the demands and the requirements of CBC in terms of infrastructure and also...
What happens to this? If you have the chance to meet, I mean, in terms of the way forward, if you meet, and are you even willing to sit with Cabinet Secretary Magoha?
I'm willing to sit with anybody in this country.
To iron out these issues. And what would you tell him? What would you tell him? We revert completely back to 844 because you're already up to grade 3 according to government now. Do we revert? Remember, there's a child in the classroom now who will be confused.
Magoha. This is what I'll tell Professor Magoha. Let us go back to Douglas Odhiambo report of 2012. Let us go to the resolutions of the stakeholders conference that engage in review of the existing system. We can still customize several aspects that we are talking about within the CBC, because we are talking about issues to do with national values. We cannot ignore strengthening the knowledge, which is very well ingrained within the 844, and we can still address the market needs. In fact, the CBC is trying to address the issues that were in the 844. And if we must move to another education system, say, for example, CBC, and we have done it in black and white, roll it out in 2023, 2024. And between now and 2023, to train teachers who are competent enough to deliver CBC from pre-service and teacher training colleges and universities, so that that group gradually takes over and introduces the CBC. But rushing it and forcing it at the moment without looking at the needs to roll out quality CBC will be destruction of the education system and the children in this country. And for avoidance of doubt, some countries have tried. South Africa tried. And they tried using teachers who were trained on the pedagogy of outcome-based curriculum. And within 6 months, teachers resisted. And the system flopped in South Africa. Many countries have tried to push in the CBC, and they've not coped with it. And they've had to drop it. And what we see here in Kenya is militant way of doing things at the ministry. What is so expensive with sitting and talking and appreciating professional views of every other organization? We cannot behave as if we are in a civil war in a ministry and a sector that can be handled through carefully handled professional work. We've developed, we've conducted research studies, and we have got research work and papers that we can share with the minister. Has the minister ever cared to invite us even to discuss our own findings? Never. We see militants,
as you said,
and that is fundamentally wrong. And let me make it very clear. We are willing to engage anyone in this country. And so far, because we have not been engaged, the last engagement is this meeting with Amina, and a statement was made. We stand by this statement.
And since then you haven't engaged anybody else. That's what you're saying.
We stand by this statement because it pointed out glaring gaps that
Which you've read to
required
us.
addressing
Okay.
and postponement of rollout to the year 2020. That is what we stand by.
Okay.
And therefore, we've advised our teachers, because there's nothing that is going on in the classroom, practically nothing. And
All
we
right.
saw it yesterday. Though we are told today...
It's definitely it's definitely a weighty matter.
Though we are told today, the
yeah.
ministry and TSC are threatening aides that the media should not go to the classrooms. We now need the media in the classroom so that we see what is happening.
Okay,
of
and
course,
we'll
this
definitely-
constitutional era of right to free information, that is what we need. And
All
we
right.
have told our members, stop teaching CBC until we engage and we guide you
All right.
accordingly.
That
the
is, of
message
course,
that is
either
going.
way you look at that, that is a lot of confusion for parents and children, of course. But you're within your
But
rights.
are the parents
You're
prepared even in the first place?
You're within your rights, as you say.
As proper communication and preparation
as
of
a
parents
union. But
been
of course,
done.
these are weighty
Definitely.
matters.
That has
and
not been done.
We hope there will be a resolution soon. But thank you so much. Nominated MP and NAT, or Kenya National Union of Teachers Secretary General, also Sossion. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight on Newsnight. Keep talking to us. Text us on 2242. On Twitter, use the hashtag Newsnight. We are back after this break.